James Madison women's soccer finishes the 2023 season at 9-5-8 and a berth into the NCAA tournament. The first time under head coach Joshua Walter's tenure, and he is kind enough to join us now. Coach, it just seemed like a season that had its ups and its downs, but you found a way to get in the tournament. I know that's a big point of pride for your program.
Yeah, absolutely. The 22 season ended, and the next week you have a team meeting with everybody, and the emphasis of that meeting was actually how do we get an at-large bid, and we kind of manifested that at that moment, and it's awesome as a coach when you see that come true.
How did you formulate this schedule and make sure that you'd be in competition for an at-large?
Yeah, we do the same thing every year. We're always going to play 4 or 5 teams that we think are going to be top 50, top 25 RPI teams, and you have to get results against them. In the past, we haven't gotten those results, but we've grown and learned. This year we were able to get it. And then on top of that, the Sun Belt as a whole did a really good job of upping the RPI. At one point, I think we had 5 teams in the top 50. So that carried a lot of weight, too, for us.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to realize this isn't 1995 anymore, right?
Yeah.
When teams in the mid-majors could get a really good shot at getting an at-large selection. It's incredibly tough to do that these days.
Yeah, it is. So essentially there are just 30-some-odd at-large bids that happen. In some years, 2 mid-majors has been kind of the low, and in other years, 5 or 6 recently are kind of mid-majors that can get an at-large. So it's incredibly difficult. It's actually easier to win the conference, I think, than it is to get an at-large bid.
That's pretty remarkable to say. This group that you've had over the years, but especially this year, I think it's a tight-knit group. I think it's a group that bought into whatever roles they had to serve. Just overall, how much of a joy was it to coach this particular team?
Yeah, amazing group. We kind of laughed and joked the other day in a team meeting that it's probably the first time where we felt like we didn't want to lose anybody. Like we wanted everybody to stay, and we wanted to be, because the team was just so much fun to be around, and like you said, bought in a lot to the way we wanted to play and how we went about it, and have done that for 4 or 5 years. It was amazing to look at the growth in that 4-year period for a lot of those players, and they would all to a person speak to it, about how much better players they are now and how much the team has grown, and the fact that we have it like a true identity.
This team started 6-2-4 to end September. You tie 4 consecutive matches, you lose 1, and then you get the win in the regular season finale. This team had to stick through it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. We had some injuries along the way. Some were season-ending. Some were, a few games, 5-6 games along the way. So other people had to step up as part of that. In some instances, we felt like the tie was fair. In some, we felt like we dominated the games and should have won. Soccer sometimes is that way. But overall, happy with the results and happy that we put ourselves in that place. And I think what you find, you look at University of North Carolina this year, they had a bunch of ties. And that came with the rule change of no overtime in the regular season, which led to ties right away. Teams could just play for ties if they wanted to.
You end up going to the conference tournament. You're a 5 seed. And in that quarterfinal game against App State, your star freshman, Jeanette Fieldson, shows up. That had to be so cool to see.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, she has been so close so many times, in scoring goals or providing that assist, and some of it just hasn't come off. But in that moment, in the biggest moment, you want your best players to step up, and she did.
I know you were always confident that you had the best team in this conference. That being said, you have to face the 1 seed in the semifinals in South Alabama. Find a way to beat them.
Yeah, I feel like overall, when you look at it, I think we have a collection of really good players. And the hope is that you can create a culture that they become a really good team as part of it. And against South Al, I felt like the difference in that game was you saw the games that we had played before. You saw the teams that we played in non-conference where I didn't feel like they played as tough a schedule. So I think that gave us a little bit of an edge. And, it was a really tight game and good game. And I think the edge was our players, past games.
You move on to the championship game, face Old Dominion for the 2nd consecutive year. 4th time in your 6 years you make a conference title game. And I know that's the next cherry on top, right, to win that game. But for your players to bounce back after that game, you get the news that you're in the tournament, and you got to get ready for a really good opponent in South Carolina. I think it just speaks to what this team's really all about.
Yeah, I mean, incredible to be in the finals 4 of 6 years. And one of those years that we weren't was COVID, which was a really odd year. But we're so close. We're so close to figuring out how to get over that hump. as you go. It's really tough in the Sun Belt because you have to play 3 games in essentially a 5-day period. So at the end, it's all, guts and heart more than anything else in that moment. And the game last year, the game this year against ODU was very tight. And the way and the ball bouncing one way or the other could have changed the game, for either team. And, they scored their opportunity towards the end, and we didn't score ours. But, we walked away from that and knew we weren't going to fly until Monday night. And then had to sit in the hotel and try to watch the selection show, not knowing if we were going to be in or not. So probably in my coaching career, probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had is getting that at-large bid. But it was so nerve-wracking because they announced all the other brackets except for ours. Ours was the last bracket. And as we calculated and we're trying to figure out, are we in or are we not? What teams? Every team I had below us got in. I kept hearing their names called, and at some point I didn't believe. I was just like, I don't know if we're going to get in. If those teams got in, maybe what we think is the criteria isn't the criteria. And then we got in, and it was just euphoria.
So maybe your next career is not bracketologist.
It was right, though, in the end, yeah.
Yeah, you got in, and obviously that's a big sense of pride for this program. Going into 2024 now, like any collegiate sport, you're going to lose some really important pieces.
Yeah.
Let's start with your captain in Ellie Johnson.
Yeah.
How did her captaincy work for this team?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. She is the type of leader that does it in a variety of ways. So she's a vocal leader, who does a really good job of speaking in front of people, in front of the team, is thoughtful about what she says. She's also a leader by what she does. Super fit, works hard, always comes to practice, always tries to do the right things, almost like a pro would. So you get those things together, and then she's played every role in the team, from not being able to get on the field and not traveling to being the team captain and one of the first names on the sheet. So she could relate to every player in the program. And a lot of times as coaches, we might not see those conversations that happen with her and some of the other players, but I could feel it. I could feel the way the culture felt this year and how everybody felt their role was super important to what we were doing. And I credit Ellie a lot for that.
Part of your leadership council also included Brittany Munson.
Yep.
I don't think there's a player that better defines the balance of being serious versus also being fun.
Yeah. So Britt's unique in what she does. I've never had a player play the way she does with her ability to break the press out of the back. A lot of coaches think it's a little crazy, the risk we let her take in things. But she's kind of that way in life too. She's pretty even-keeled. She wants to work hard, but she wants to have fun too. And if you see her off the field, she's pretty mild-mannered and doesn't really say a lot, but on the field is an absolute beast.
In between the pipes, Alexandra Blom.
Yeah.
It seems like if there are defensive breakdowns, which didn't happen all that often, she would be right there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian Hauer, SID, put out a post the other day about her. And in reading a post, it was like first in the program at this, first in the program at these goalkeeper statistics. And I just looked at it, and the first thought that came to my mind is how many years until they can induct her into the Hall of Fame? Because that's the kind of career that she had. And you think, maybe put an asterisk beside some of these that are 5-year careers, but she really only played 4, and one of those 4 was COVID.
Sure.
Even though she was here for 5, she wasn't the starter her freshman year. So she actually did it in what I would say is 3.5 years to get some of those program best. So, in my mind, I can't wait to go to that ceremony when she gets inducted.
That's some pretty strong words from you.
Yeah.
Wow. So on the offensive side, Swiss Muhammad had 3 goals and an assist last year in 2022.
Yeah.
Didn't have any goals or assists prior to that. This season, 7 goals, 5 assists. Take us through how she grew as a player, but I know more importantly as a person too.
Yeah, Swiss was a slow burn. So she came in and had to adjust to the college level. She has all kinds of pace, but in the way we play, you have to mix that pace with intelligence and timing and technique. And she just grew and grew along the way until the point where she was a focal point this year. And to be honest with you, I didn't know to expect that coming in. I didn't know that she was going to have the impact she did. We've always thought that she could in that manner. But love it. And it goes to credit for who she actually is as a person. She would do anything for anybody on the team. She comes from a background where she didn't have very much in life, so is extremely appreciative of what we have and how she's able to partake in the things that we do here. And just it's one of those really feel-good things where you're excited to see somebody have success that way, because you want it for them so bad.
Yeah, no, it's just her story coming from overseas and doing the things that she has done is certainly remarkable. All right, so you have one of your check boxes filled. You got your at-large selection in the NCAA tournament. I know you're going to tell me you want to win conference championships, but to get into the tournament and be a perennial contender, how does that continue to solidify itself in the future? Yeah,
we have to flip some of these ties we've had in the last 2 years to wins. You look at seasons and how people have done. Like some of the other mid-majors around, had 12 wins and 4 losses in some ties. When you look at ours, we weren't that far away from them, so we had to flip some of those. I mean, we had 5 losses on the year in there, so we're not that far off of that part. We also have to figure out how to beat some of these top 25 teams. I mean, a fantastic tie against Georgetown in the year, and then beating South Alabama from an RPI perspective was a top 25 team. But we're so close, and the games we played, the margin is so narrow. We've got to gain ground there. And I would say the biggest part for us is we have to kind of finalize what we're going to do in the final third. Be able to score a few more goals, and if we can up the goal tally, I think that will flip those results. Well, Coach, best of luck accomplishing all those goals, and we look forward to next season. Thanks so much for the time. Congratulations on a great year. Thank you. Appreciate it.